Welcome back. We have breaking news this morning. Terrorism in France. I'm Maria Bartiromo. It is Friday, July 15th. The breaking news is at least 84 people, including 2 Americans, have been killed overnight as a truck slammed into a crowd yesterday celebrating Bastille Day in Nice, France. French authorities are reporting the driver of the truck was a 31-year-old French Tunisian. He was shot by police after driving along a crowded sidewalk for over a mile. New video just in to Fox of the scene unfolding. French authorities are currently searching the driver's home right now. Fox News' Megyn Kelly spoke with Americans who witnessed the attack last night.
We were inside for just a couple minutes, and we started hearing what sounded like thumping and the crowd just getting loud. So we went back outside quickly to see what that was. I actually thought, well, maybe there were more fireworks going off. We looked over the balcony down to the street. That's actually when we saw the truck going by right in front of our view and just hitting people. It was just unbelievable.
So far, no group has claimed responsibility, and there is no clear tie to ISIS, but authorities are calling this a terrorist attack. President Obama condemning the attack, promising that the U.S. will stand in solidarity with the French people. Presidential candidates Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton reacting to the horror last night. Trump saying, quote, "We're living in a whole different world." Clinton calling this, quote, "a different kind of war." Donald Trump has postponed his presidential vice presidential announcement in the wake of these attacks, which come just days ahead of the Republican National Convention, which kicks off on Monday. That is raising new security concerns for the event. Investors around the world this morning reacting to the news. Stocks in Europe all lower today. Travel-related companies taking the hardest hit this morning. In the U.S., futures are mostly flat. Traders are digesting the news coming off of several days of gains for U.S. stocks. And, of course, the market is trading on earnings, better than expected numbers yesterday from J.P. Morgan, among others. Today, we're waiting on Citigroup in the banking sector. The markets in Asia overnight, slightly better on the session. Take a look. The Nikkei average in Japan, once again, continuing momentum with a gain of 0.2%. Breaking news this morning, at least 84 people are dead in a terrorist attack in the French city of Nice after a suspected terrorist drove into a crowd gathered for Bastille Day and a fireworks display. France's president is vowing to intensify the strikes in Syria and Iraq in the wake of this attack. I want to bring in Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, Fox News strategic analyst and author of The Damned of Petersburg. Colonel, thanks very much for joining us. Is this another example of terrorists going after what we're calling soft targets?
Well, absolutely. And the terrorists have 3 goals. And you just got, when you talked about the stocks declining in the tourist industry, you got toward the one that everybody's missing. I mean, obviously, they want to just kill people. They get a great deal of satisfaction from it. They want to garner headlines because jihad generates jihad. But the other thing they're doing with the targeted attacks, obviously in Egypt, in Turkey, in Tunisia, but in Paris and Nice as well, is to hurt economies. Now, this attack in Nice is obviously not going to utterly gut the French economy, but it's certainly going to hurt Nice very much, just as hoteliers in Paris suffered. They go after the tourist industry because it is the softest of the soft targets. Tourists don't want to go places where they're basically under guard 24 hours a day. So it's a combination of really brilliant tactics, very economically effective. You rent a truck and you get global headlines, kill 84 people, and smash Nice's summer tourism industry. So it's very, very effective, very, very cheap. And, you know, we still are not responding effectively, and we won't until we get serious, because if you really sum up all the wonderful comments, the fine comments you heard in the first half hour of your show, the greatest ally the terrorists have in the West is political correctness. And until we recognize that in such a time of crisis, in order to preserve the liberty of the vast majority, the rights of a small minority have to be curtailed. We have to come down harder on jihadists, especially in Europe. I mean, America is a bit different. Our Muslim American population has a largely different profile. But Europe has deep problems. They're not assimilated. There's bad blood on both sides. And Europe is either going to up its policing or these attacks will continue ad infinitum.
Yeah, particularly in a place like France, where you are seeing such a huge, well, Muslim community, certainly, and a community of people who refuse to assimilate. accumulate. Now, what about the truck part of this? I mean, is this a new way to create havoc? The truck plowing into people. It's not a suicide bomber. It's not what we've seen in Orlando, shooters. What do you think?
Well, it's a marvelous terror tool because, again, it's very, very cheap, certainly very effective, but also part of this is creating psychological unease in everybody everywhere. So we know to look out for people with guns or people with suicide vests.
Just trying to surprise us then.
Yeah, now you're walking down the street and you have to worry about trucks.
Right.
So they're doing a great job of unsettling our societies.
Yeah, let me get Dagan
And again,
in here.
we're not fighting back. Sure. That rebel gal Dagan.
Ralph, it's so good to see you, but I want to raise this issue. Catherine Herridge reported that in the fall of 2010, the online edition of the al-Qaeda propaganda magazine Inspire called on followers to use trucks as killing machines. This is almost 6 years ago, to mow down civilians. And that raises the issue of, if we've known that this was a threat for 6 years, again, it doesn't matter if it's the Islamic State or it's al-Qaeda or another Islamic terrorism group. Here in the United States, at a gathering of people like this, you will have barricades. You will have row after row of garbage trucks and heavy barricades, giant barrels of sand to prevent this kind of thing. Maybe not in every city, but certainly in your major cities here in the United States.
No, and those are all very good points. But again, how do you defend against an unmarked truck? Yes, we have barricades, but in Nice, do they want to park garbage trucks at both ends of the seaside promenade? That's not what tourists want to see, certainly. So we're just seeing, we face a very inventive, imaginative enemy that understands franchising to the nth degree, understands PR, understands branding, and we are constantly on the defensive because of our laws, regulations, a stringent interpretation of those laws, political correctness, and ultimately our unwillingness even now to take this seriously. So could it happen here? Yes. Where will it happen for certain? Europe, because of the different models of our societies. But Dagan, you're absolutely right. These are key points.
Yeah, Steve Rogers.
Colonel Steve Rogers here. To your point about how do we defend against this type of terror, one problem I see is that the Obama administration took that military armament away from police departments across the country. Our police officers are outgunned, they're outnumbered, they don't have the assault weapons they need, nor do they have the heavy armament they're going to need in order to stop such an attack like a truck attack. So can you weigh in on that?
Oh, another great point. Look, when you have an American president who essentially vilifies the police, but argues that we have to understand radical Islam, even though we won't call it radical Islam, you're in trouble. And part of it is simply facing the reality in front of us. But yes, the police, if we do not arm the police and all law enforcement elements, the FBI, and also our intelligence capabilities, if we do not arm them with updated laws and regulations that realistically address 21st century threats, we'll continue to be playing defense, and you can't win playing defense. So, yeah, the cops, my God, I have so much sympathy with our police.
Yeah.
And every time I hear somebody like Hillary Clinton arguing that, it's never about social pathologies and minority cultures. It's about the police. The police are heroes every single day. And I'll tell you, as a former soldier, they go through stresses every single day that soldiers don't. It's incredible what those police endure in major cities and small towns. We need to embrace the cops. They're on our side.
Colonel Jonathan Hoenig, just a quick question for you, if I could. I mean, this attack almost seems to mirror some of the attacks in Israel over the last 6 months of just whether it's a knifing or a car assault. Are the terrorists becoming more brazen, or are they becoming less sophisticated? Because certainly in terms of sophistication, this is a big step down from some type of a massive airline plot. This is, as you mentioned, a car and a crowd of people.
Yeah, well, actually, I see this as incredibly sophisticated. When you can take a truck, just a plain truck, and create this kind of havoc, generate these kind of headlines, do economic damage. Sophistication isn't always a matter of sophisticated tools. Rather, it's a matter of imaginative thinking. And we'll certainly see more big attacks, but in the meantime, your point is certainly well taken. We've seen these vehicle attacks in Israel, not with major trucks, because Israel has more stringent security measures, but they will do anything they can, and they have now created, even as we do make real gains against them, albeit slowly in Iraq and Syria, they've now generated this global culture of jihad, where you don't need a laminated membership card in ISIS or Al-Qaeda. You're a self-starter. And when we started, well, there's no evidence that it's an Al-Qaeda plot. Of course it is. It's an ISIS plot. It's Al-Qaeda. It's jihad. And oh, by the way, if we studied history, jihad began in the 7th century, and it never ended.
Yeah. All right. We will leave it there. Colonel, thanks very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Lieutenant Colonel Peters there. World leaders standing in solidarity this morning with France following the deadly attack in the southern city of Nice. We will bring you the very latest details when we come back. Stay with us.